Hello and welcome to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be taking a look at another class within the Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access. And today we're having a look at Druid. And there's a couple of interesting paths you can take Druid down, but I think if you're playing Druid in Baldur's Gate 3, then I'm guessing that's probably primarily because you want to be changing into animals, which is understandable. There's some fairly powerful animal classes within the game. And if this is the reason you're taking Druid, then there's really only one subclass that stands out. But let's go into character creation first. So, first thing to say is there aren't really any backgrounds that particularly stand out. So if you wanted to pick something like folk hero for roleplay purposes, I mean, that's okay. But I would say that the animal handling and the survival skills is not something I found really come into play that often within the early access. I think something like guild artisan, although it doesn't necessarily make sense with a druid, what it does give is this insight proficiency, which is linked to wisdom, which is our primary stat here. And persuasion, our charisma's low, but you know, maybe if we're proficient in it, we can succeed in some checks that we might otherwise fail, so that's all right. In terms of race, I've gone with a wood elf. The reason for this being that they're one of the classes that give a +1 to wisdom. They also give +2 to dexterity, which is quite an important stat for us because it just boosts our armor class and ability to dodge attacks. So that's pretty good. There are some other options that I will say that with the races that are currently available, there isn't anything that gives a +2 to wisdom, which is a shame. But there are a couple of alternatives. We could have probably a wood half-elf. We could give them +1 to wisdom and dexterity. The charisma +2 is by the by, really. We'll probably... Yeah, we can't really reduce that any further, but, you know, it's okay. I think perhaps something like Gold Dwarf is also recommended. Again, you get the +1 to wisdom. You do get +2 constitution with Gold Dwarf, which is pretty good. So I guess it's if you want your character to be a little tankier, then perhaps you'd take the Gold Dwarf, or if you want them to maybe have a higher armor class over hit points, then you take the Wood Elf like I'm doing. I did also notice that Lightfoot Halfling, you can make an argument for. You get the Dexterity +2. You don't get any Wisdom, but you do get Lucky, which is quite a nice trait to have, where if you roll a 1, say, instead of critically missing, you've got another chance to make an attack, so that's not too bad. But we're going to go with the Wood Elf here. If we go into class, we can see that we've got Druid selected. We can customize the spells that we take. I've got 2 cantrips here, Shillelagh and Thorn Whip. And what's interesting about both of these is, well, Thorn Whip is deals damage and pulls enemies a bit closer. So, you know, if you're at range, you pull them closer, then you could change into your animal form and then, you know, maybe attack them from melee in the next go. So that's not too bad. The other option, we'll get guidance anyway in, I think it's either level 3 or level 4 level up, so don't worry too much about that. Shillelagh, if you're hitting things with your staff, which you may well be doing, especially at the early levels, that's not too bad. With a bonus action, you can, you know, just deal a lot more damage with your, with your staff. So that's all right. In terms of the prepared spells, with Druid, we know all of these spells already. We don't have to learn these, but we do prepare them in order to be able to use them. This is what it's automatically given us. Entangle, I guess, is quite nice just to stop things getting up close and personal with you. It's got a heal. Thunderwave's always good. It's always a favourite for pushing enemies away while doing damage. You know, when you're in the animal form of, say, Raven, you've got a lot of movement, so you could, you know, go up to an enemy or an archer, perhaps, who's on a high place, and change back next to him and then Thunderwave them off the high spot. So that could be quite fun. Goodberry, it's another way of getting healing. These actually stay in your inventory between... up until the next long rest, sorry. So, you know, you get a healing item in your inventory you can use to get a D4 hit points as needed. It's not massive healing, but it could be the difference between living and dying. So, you know, that's good. All of which is to say that we'll probably stick with these for now. And there we go. Let's look at skills. So our wisdom is our highest thing here. So anything that's linked to wisdom, like animal handling, is given, and I guess, you know, thematically it sounds pretty good, but I don't know. I didn't notice a lot of use for it in the game. Whereas medicine and survival are probably your other. I might take nature off, although it sounds like a good one because it's linked to intelligence. It's, you know, we're not really doing very much with that, so maybe we'll take medicine. And we'll take survival, perhaps. Abilities. This is pretty much what I ended up on. Strength is low. We're not really going to be doing melee attacks. Sometimes we will, but to be honest, we're going to be changing into animals at will almost. So something like the bear you can change into. You actually get the ability points for those creatures. So bear, I think, comes with 19 strength when you change into it. So we don't need the strength on our sort of usual form, if you like. Dexterity is good to get the armor class up. Constitution for hit points. Wisdom for dealing our spell damage and stuff. And sort of intelligent charisma are again a bit of a dump stat type area. And we're going to go in with that. So when we come back, we're going to level this up to level 2, 3, and 4. So here we are at level 2. And this is where we make probably the biggest choice you're going to make as your druid. One of which gives you... Well, you get wild shapes in both choices. But the important thing is that in Circle of the Moon, you can do it as a bonus action. Which means you can wild shape and then attack in the same turn, which is actually pretty big, because you'll probably find that if you're Circle of the Land, because it takes an action, a full action to change, that actually you find you're not really doing that very often. Circle of the Land tends to be more towards the spellcaster route, if that's where you want to take your druid. But it's important to note that Circle of the Moon, you can still cast spells. You're still a spellcaster. You don't have the feature where you can... once per day replenish expended spell slots, which is probably the main feature of the Circle of the Land. So for me, Circle of the Moon is just the standout choice. And here, as a bonus action, we can change into a badger you can bury into the ground, a spider where you can enweb people, and that can be quite good for battlefield control. As a wolf, you can sort of buddy up with a fighter, perhaps, because you leave enemies vulnerable, and it's going to make it easier for your companions to actually hit enemies. As a wolf, you could be a cat. That's probably more likely if you're out of combat and stealthing around. You can do it as a cat pretty well. And a bear, which is your sort of tank stroke damage dealing class, really. And in each one, it notes how many hit points you've got. For instance, badger's got 13 hit points, bear's got 30, and you might be thinking, well, if I'm not necessarily at this level, but in later levels, if I'm a druid who's got 40 hit points, why would I change into a bear who's got 30? Just more vulnerable then. How it actually works is when if you're in an animal shape and your hit points are reduced to 0, you then go back into your druid shape with the amount of hit points they had when they transformed. So say you're at full 40 HP, then you transform into a bear. You're effectively now a character that has 70 hit points. And all that will happen is if you lose 30 of them, you'll change back into your form where you've got 40 hit points. So really, you've got sort of 2 HP bars as each of these characters, and as a tanky bear, that's pretty good. So, this is where we're going, Circle of the Moon. We can have a little look at our prepared spells, if there's anything else that sort of stands out to us. It's given us this bonus action healing word, which is, to be fair, probably a fairly solid choice, so we'll just stick with that. Here at level 3, it's a case of just learning and preparing new spells, really. It's given us the Druid level 2 spells, some of which are pretty nice. Let's just take a quick look at this. I'm actually going to unselect the bonus action healing. I'm going to unselect Flaming Sphere as well, because the ones I want to take are Moonbeam. Does a lot of damage, and you can also, when you've cast it, you can use your action to move the beam around 18 meters, which is actually pretty far. So, it can continue to do damage on other enemies as well, so I like that a lot. And perhaps something like I can make an argument for Barkskin or Spike Growth here. I think I'm going to go Spike Growth. You can lay this down onto the ground, and any creatures walking over it will take between 2 and 8 piercing damage for every 1.5 meters they move. And it actually halves their movement speed as well, so if you're attacking from range, you can lay this down, and to get to you, enemies are going to have to damage themselves, so that's quite good. Here we're at level 4. A couple of things to note. We get a couple of new wild shapes. There's something called Deep Rothe. I don't really know what that is, but it can cast dancing lights and charge its enemies. And the Raven, I think I mentioned before, where it can blind enemies and also just fly like a really long way, like really boost your movement speed. Cantrips, I think you're going to want to stick with guidance here. We mentioned it in the character creator, I think. This is something that happens out of combat. If you're in a you know, a conversation or transaction of some kind. Well, mainly conversations. You can actually cast this passively to bestow a 1d4 bonus to ability checks. So that's pretty nice. And it's a cantrip, so that's unlimited cast. Another look at our prepared spells. Let's see. It's given us back the Flaming Sphere. Is there anything else we might want? Flame Blade is a bit like a souped-up shillelagh, isn't it? Because it's doing... it's still a bonus action. It's not using a spell slot, interestingly. So, but I quite like the idea of heat metal. Maybe that is using a spell slot. I don't think any of them say if they do or not. Heat metal. So you can damage an enemy with this, and if they're holding a metal weapon, it can make them have disadvantage on their attacks as well. If they're holding metal armor, we can use a bonus action on subsequent turns to deal that damage again and potentially force the creature to drop its weapon or receive disadvantage. So that's actually a really nice spell. So I'm going to take Flaming Sphere off and I'm going to put Heat Metal on. Still got the Moonbeam and everything else. There are some really nice spells in the Druid spell list, so feel free to experiment with those and you know, see what you like the look of the most. Ability improvements. So we're going to... Let's see. So what have we got? Because we're playing essentially a wild shape character, because you can't cast spells when you're wild shaped, I'm actually not going to increase wisdom. I think if you were Circle of the Land, you would. You'd take this right up to 18. I think what instead I'm going to do is just get our dexterity and constitution rounded up. So we've gone from a +3 to +4 modifier on that. That's going to increase our AC. I think that makes it 16 now, I'm not exactly sure. And more hit points as well, make us a bit tankier. But if you thought, even with a wild shape druid, I'm going to still be casting loads of spells, then perhaps you would choose to take the wisdom up to 18. I mean, not within the early access, but I think at level 8 you get the chance to do this again, so maybe you do that at that point. Okay, there we go. When we come back, we're going to see how this druid fares in combat. Right, so here we are at the Chapel Ruins. We've aggroed the group of bandits who are trying to rob it, and we're going to see how we got on. I've actually recruited Lae'zel for this because, although strong, the Druid class is more of a support class, so I think it would help if we kind of see how that works in action. Make way. So let's bring her up to these two melee fighters here. Let's go to our character, and we're going to let's try wild shaping as the direwolf to start with. Here we go. Ourselves. Now this said, we can give other characters... Oh wow, it's big, isn't it? We can give other characters advantage or something. Okay, that's for movement. Exposing bite. Nip at a target and distract it. If your attack hits, the next attack against the target will be a critical hit. So that's kind of where the feature of this class comes from. Now, how can we get to... Okay, if we come around the back here, let's do an exposing bite. Oh, 84%, oh, 88% chance to hit on him. So let's do that. Exposing bite, and now we can flip back to Lae'zel, who is going to attack him. 70% chance. I don't know if we can boost her chances to hit at all, but possibly not. But let's see what she does. Critical hit there. He's on 1 hit point. Luckily, she's got pommel strike, so. Actually, let's just go to our wolf first, see if there's anything we can do as a bonus. I don't believe there is. So let's use that pommel strike then to finish off this character. Alright, he's gone. And that's pretty much it for our turn. It's our turn again. And why don't we try the thing that I mentioned before with the raven. So what we're going to do, we're going to switch out of our wild shape here. Yeah, we can do it again. And we're going to become the raven. And let's fly. How do we do that? Do we cast it on ourselves?
Have to
Let's
keep
go here.
going.
Let's cast fly to get... Can we get here? I think we can. There we go, we can go here. And let's come up behind this character. Oh, okay, we took attack of opportunity, unfortunately. So let's... We do still have our action, so let's change back.
Hold it! Not another step.
And then we'll cast that thunder wave that we mentioned on this wizard here. Oh, they actually resisted the shove. But we still did damage. But, you know, in theory you could knock them off that high place. Alright, Lae'zel, all we really want to do with Lae'zel is just keep her there being a target, so she hasn't taken any damage yet, so that's fine. Okay, back to us.
I won't give in.
So maybe we should try the same thing again. Still got a spell slot for it. Or we can't wild. We've used our 2 wild shapes now, which is a shame. But let's thunder wave her off this. Don't know what happened to the camera there, but it was a kill. It's going to take us a little while to get back to the action. Alright, back to us. Taking a bit of heat. We increase this with jump tool.
With haste.
I think what I would like to do is put a moonbeam down to show how that works. So let's cast moonbeam. Let's do it on the ranged character.
Ex textura.
There we go. He actually saved, so I think he took half damage on that.
Fury. I am death.
My turn. And we're going to move our moonbeam. How do we do that? Here we go. So we click on move moonbeam. And let's move it to here, so it's on this guy. It only took 2 damage, which is odd. So the bare minimum of damage on that. Okay, well let's take a healing potion as well. Ah, he took another 6 damage from the moonbeam. I'll go again, so we can move the moonbeam back to the ranger. And that's actually a kill. That did 13 damage that time. We could maybe use our Shillelagh cantrip. And next turn maybe we'll go and give this guy a thump.
Victory awaits.
Right, my turn again.
Time to push my luck again.
So then we'll do 2. Well, I think we'll put the moonbeam on first. Don't really want to go within it ourselves, so maybe we'll just drop the concentration on it at this point. Then we'll come up behind him and we'll give him a whack with our Shillelagh. Oh. How do we use our action? Huh. Okay.
Swift and lethal.
Still breathing.
Okay, back to us. He's got what? 5 hit points. I wonder if there's some spike growth under him. Oh, it's going to affect quite a large area. Let's put it there. Right, Lae'zel, let's jump her out. So this guy's got to come to us. And see if we can kill him just with the spike growth. Nope, he jumped out of it.
I wonder if this is worth the cost.
think maybe we'll just use good old Thunderwave. Try not to hit Lae'zel as well if possible. And there he goes. And we're out of combat. So there we go. It's a little look at what you can do with the Druid. If I just short rest here. We've got our 2 wild shapes back. So let's go into let's do a bear. Where's the bear? There we go. We're a polar bear now. We can do a goading roar. It's basically a taunt. You can taunt creatures into attacking you. You know, you're slightly tanky, so that's not too bad. You can also use spell slots to heal. If you use a 2nd level spell slot, you can actually do that to 2d8, which is quite good. Let's change back. We can look at a couple more. We can wild shape into the spider. There we go, we're a spider. We can cast web, which means the creatures caught within it can't move. Attack rolls against them have advantage, while its attack rolls have disadvantage. And disadvantage on dex saving throws. Let's see what that looks like. There we go, so we can web an area. Got the Lunar Men thing again. I think that's just unique. That's just for every wild shape. So let's come out of that. We'll look at a couple more, so I'll do it on a short rest. We looked at the wolf. We could look at the Rothe, which I don't even know what that is. It's like a bull type thing. There we go, that's a Rothe. And that can charge forward, attacking all hostile creatures in the way, dealing 1d6 plus 4 piercing damage, and potentially knocking prone for 2 turns. You can also cast Dancing Lights if that's what you want to do. And in terms of the charge, we could charge over here. So that's actually looks pretty good. Let's change back. Then we'll look at one more. Looked at the raven, looked at the Rothe, looked at the bear. So I guess it's cat or badger really, isn't it? Let's change into a badger. There we go, no, big badger. And the badger can use its claws. But the main thing I suppose you'd be the badger for is to burrow into the ground and emerge at the target position, possibly knocking nearby creatures prone. So if we can... I guess we're picking the target area. Where can we say we could go up to here. So badger digs down. Then bursts out there. So that's actually quite a nice move. I want to see it digging down, so let's see if I can get the camera in the right place. There we go. Boom. There you are. So, there we have it. Druid in action. Now, that's the wild-shaped Druid, and it's I think it's the more fun, possibly the stronger of the two. Like, it still can cast the spells, as we've seen, and also has the benefit of changing into a wild shape as a bonus action, which makes it that bit more useful, I think, in a battle. So thanks very much for watching. I hope that was useful. If it was, then please do hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And I hope to see you again next time for another Baldur's Gate 3 class guide. Bye for now.